15 miles away on the A1, at the site of the jackknifed lorry, officers Phil Stonebanks and Dave Robson are still fighting to reopen the blocked lanes. And time is against them.
My mum always said if I didn't work hard at school, I'd end up sweeping the streets. She was right.
The tailback caused by the accident is now stretching over 500 metres towards a bend in the motorway.
Traffic was just starting to build up. The early morning risers were on the way to work or were just starting work. It was starting to get busy with lorries and cars. And it was quite obvious that traffic was quickly going to start tailing back.
A lane has been kept open in each direction to keep traffic moving. But there's still a long tailback.
We know there's going to be some backlog, and you always think that you try and make it safe so there isn't going to be another accident. And with any accident, it could be from bumper to bumper, up to the worst, the fatal. And you never expect it. You never want to think about that happening.
As they wait for a recovery team to shift the HGV, a call comes in over the radio. It's just what the cops feared.
Another bump just further down now. 90, was that another one down here somewhere? There's been another accident between two articulated goods vehicles. One's run into the back of the other one and it's potentially quite serious. Nope. You get that?
So, yeah, it's looking bad down here.
Yeah, down there. Yeah, the information is that this one on the northbound is confirmed fatality. That's in the tailbacks heading up to the first RTC, so we're just heading down there now to assist. It's just literally around the corner. What a mess.
When I got to the scene and saw the state of the lorry, it was a pretty harrowing sight.
Tragically, the driver of the lorry hasn't survived.
The engine smashed to pieces in this, you can see that he's nowhere surviving that.
The gearbox had been smashed out, the prop shaft had been smashed out. That's the most damage I've seen to a lorry in my 17 years as a traffic officer. It was horrendous.
Jesus. Yeah, it's obviously as bad as it gets, is this one. You know, we've had one fairly minor incident up there where the lorry's allegedly swerved to miss a deer. As a result of that, it's caused tailbacks round the corner around here. There's a lorry here which has obviously had to stop. This one obviously hasn't managed to stop in time. And as you can see from the state of the cab, there's unfortunately no way that the poor guy could have survived it.
You've just got to be professional at the end of the day. You've got to take your emotional head off, stick that on one side, and do the job that you're paid to do. The families would expect that from you. It's what everybody expects from you. So you've just got to remain professional throughout and do what you get paid to do.
Because there's been a fatality, this will now be treated as a crime scene. The cause of death needs to be investigated, and Dave takes detailed statements from witnesses. The driver whose truck took the full force of the HGV colliding with it from behind is being treated for injuries to his neck and back.
Hey, can I just get a few details before he goes? And what do you remember happening?
The matrix were on.
Yeah.
Telling us to slow down. Was slowing down because I was in the outside lane originally. It's in the matrix, pulled into the near side, and I slowed down virtually to stopping. And I just looked in the mirror and there's trouble behind me and just went to brace myself.
Right, okay then. Like I say, someone will come and speak to you and just jot it down in writing later on. Right, thank you very much. Cheers. We know on this time matrices were set to slow people down. We don't know what has happened and the reason why, but that should have slowed the traffic down.
The HGV hit the end of the tailback with such force it caused a domino effect, pushing 3 trucks into one another and then finally shunting into a BMW. On the A1 at the site of the fatal accident, PC Phil Stonebanks is working to get the road reopened.
It's 8:20 now. I think we've been here about 4 hours now.
With the A1 shut down, the cops have to keep monitoring the increased traffic on the B roads.
Yeah, we've just got an update. We've got the helicopter up now. It's daylight and they're just having a float around the area just to see what the traffic situation is. Here in the middle, in the actual scene itself, it's shut completely. We're in a sterile area, but all the surrounding roads around Pontefract and sort of heading down towards Doncaster and such like, it's just absolute chaos now.
Because it's unclear why the deceased driver wasn't able to stop in time, the wreckage of his truck is carefully recovered and removed for examination.
We have a duty to investigate that accident for the deceased driver and for his family, just to find out exactly what happened. It could have been a mechanical fault on his vehicle. His brakes might have failed. We don't know until we've analysed it in the minutest detail, just to find out exactly what did cause the accident.
6 miles away, in a vehicle recovery yard near Wakefield, police accident investigator Keith Rayner sees the HGV wreckage for the first time.
It's unfortunately typical of two HGVs being involved in accidents. You've so much energy, you've so much weight. You only see this when you've got multiple HGVs or commercial vehicles.
The HGV's tachograph records speed and distance. It reveals the truck didn't slow down before impact.
His tachograph at the moment, the download just shows basically constant speed in the region of 50 mile an hour. Is it because he hasn't seen anybody slowing down and he hasn't slowed down, or because he couldn't slow down? And that's the issue that we're trying to establish.
The answer may lie with the truck's braking systems.
Is there any way we can connect something up to get something to work? If not, we have to look at the individual components, activate them. So we sort of start at one end and work back as far as we can. So although we can't check every component on the vehicle because of the damage, the components we have checked haven't given us any indication that we've got anything wrong. The truck's got multi-systems to activate all the brakes. It's unlikely that you're going to get a failure of every one to cause a total catastrophic failure.
They also inspect the truck's headlights to see if they were on at the time of impact.
Don't know can you see that? If you look at the distortion of the filament, it stops so quickly that even the filament wants to carry on going. And being in effect white hot, it just continues. So that's a definite indication, or a good indication the headlamp was on at the time of impact.
To find out if the brake lights were on too, Keith is looking for the same kind of filament distortion.
Nothing, is there? Like that headlamp one that we looked at, if the filament's distorted, it would suggest that it's been hot when it was distorted. But none of these are distorted.
The evidence is inconclusive, but points towards human error.
At the moment, there's nothing standing out with this to me that would cause me a concern. If you ain't got wrong with the road, you don't have wrong with the vehicle, you're down to the operator of the vehicle. Why didn't he brake? Nobody really wants to sort of accept that somebody's made a mistake that ends up with such tragic consequences.
All the facts that Keith gathers from the examination will go in the report to the coroner, who will determine exactly what caused the accident.
You always have thoughts about the person that's died. You wonder who they are, what they were doing, have they got any family, have they got any kids? You always think about things like that. You're thinking, that guy turned in for work this morning, got in his lorry, set off to do the job, do the route he's probably done 300 or 400 times for maybe 5, 10, 20 years. You always think about them, the number of people that's been affected by someone losing their life in such tragic circumstances.
At the inquest, the coroner recorded a verdict of accidental death. but found the evidence available could not explain why the driver did not slow down or change direction. It's 7 p.m. and Birmingham's rush hour traffic has been brought to a standstill. PC's Jess Davis and Al Coleman are fighting their way through it to get to a serious accident on the busy Aston Expressway.
When we started approaching the scene, there was nowhere to go. We were struggling to make our way through traffic. It was just a sea of red lights.
This 2-mile stretch of motorway is unusual because there's no central barrier separating the opposing carriageways. There is, however, a no-go buffer lane.
The reason the buffer lane changes day to day is from what they call the tidal flow. So in the morning, you have more lanes opening into city at rush hour traffic, and the opposite on the evening. That's why there's no central barrier down the middle.
But no central barrier means that a head-on collision between the fast-moving traffic is much more likely. And as they arrive, the motorway cops fear the worst.
It's a massive scene. It's looking serious at the moment. I don't know the ins and outs of injuries.
The multiple pile-up involves a BMW, a Mini, and a Jaguar.
When I saw both the Jaguar and the Mini, both those cars were extensively damaged. It was quite clear to me that there'd been a head-on collision, and I actually thought there would be a number of fatalities from both vehicles.
The fire crews are preparing to cut out 2 injured passengers who are trapped in the wreck of the Jaguar. 2 people were in the Mini and they've already been freed, but the news isn't good.
They're both in the ambulance now. I've also been informed that one of the females within the Mini is it's looking like it could turn into a fatality. It hasn't at the moment, but there's a potential. She's a very elderly female.
A passenger from the BMW is also injured, but fortunately it's not serious, and Al's giving what assistance he can.
Do you feel any pain anywhere at all?
My shoulder, my arm, and my head, just pounding.
Can you wiggle your fingers, can you?
I can this one's
Not so hard,
to move.
quite hard today. Feel that?
No.
No? Just have a little look, all right? Can you recall whether you knocked your arm or your arm was hit at all?
I don't remember.
No, remember. All right, mate. So she's got numbness down the back of her neck. She can't wiggle the fingers very well on this arm here, but she's holding in her comfortable position. Can't feel her toes, which I think is probably cold. She's a little bit in shock.
While Al briefs the paramedic, Jess begins the investigation into what happened.
Are you a witness?
I'm the driver of the car.
Has anyone taken your details or
Yeah,
spoken?
gentleman has, yeah.
Is that's your car there?
Yeah.
The roof of the man's Jaguar has now been cut away by the fire crews so they can try to free the injured backseat passengers.
That car's come across that carriageway into the front of us.
What, the Mini has?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Mini was the one driving the wrong way?
Yeah.
Right.
We were in the middle
Right.
lane, and then suddenly there's 2 headlights in front of you. There's just nowhere to go, is there?
No.
It seems that the Mini has veered right across the buffer lane into the opposite carriageway.
The Aston Expressway is a safe motorway. And that's more than likely due to the fact that the speed limit's 50 miles per hour, and they have that buffer lane in the middle.
Even at 50 miles an hour, a head-on crash is highly dangerous, despite having cars with modern crash protection.
Your seat belts and your restraint systems may hold you in the car, your body physically, but the problem that you have, everything else keeps moving within inside your body. And to survive an accident like that is quite rare.
The driver of the BMW has been lucky to escape injury. He's being breathalyzed as a precaution, but so far it doesn't appear he's to blame.
I think the back end swung round as he hit the car head on, and we went straight into him.
While the injured woman from his car is taken to hospital with a suspected broken collarbone, the fire crew are still battling to free the 2 passengers trapped inside the Jaguar.
I get really worried about people. We're human beings just like everybody else. You can see people who are in terrible pain. You see other casualties where you start to think, I don't even know if they're going to survive this.
On the Aston Expressway in Birmingham, the 2 injured passengers have finally been removed from the wreck of the Jaguar.
In my experience, I've been on the motorway for 10 years or so. It's one of the worst scenes I've seen on the expressway. And I have to say, people say, well, it's always going to happen on the expressway because there's no centre reservation. This is a very, very rare accident on the expressway where somebody actually has a head-on.
Inspector Mark Fullwood is in charge of the crash scene and has been waiting for news of the critically injured woman who was rushed to hospital over an hour ago.
Yeah, I've just received an update from my officers at the hospital. Unfortunately, the female passenger from the Mini, she was rushed into theatre, but unfortunately she has passed away. So now we are treating this as a fatal collision investigation, and we'll do our utmost to find out the cause of the collision.
The scene will now be preserved until a collision investigation team has gathered enough evidence to enable them to work out the sequence of events. Witness accounts and photographs will be used to build a picture of just what happened. The investigation will be helped by the roadside cameras which have caught the whole incident on tape. As the Mini crosses the buffer lane, one lucky car driver has time to avoid it, but the Jaguar driver has no chance to react as the Mini heads directly towards him. The Jaguar was being driven by Paul Hills.
It was quite busy, but traffic was moving well into town, and suddenly this car appeared. The last thing I saw was two headlights, and that was it. We couldn't go left. I didn't have time to brake, do anything. We just took the impact, bang, and that was it.
The evidence from the CCTV is crucial because it reveals that at no point do the Mini's brake lights come on.
So it appeared that she hadn't even attempted to brake, because the first thing you do in any sort of, your first natural instinct is to slam on the brakes. So we just couldn't begin to imagine why the driver hadn't done that.
One possibility is mechanical failure, but only by examining the wreckage can the cops hope to find out. And as the investigation continues into the night, more news comes in.
It appears from my latest update that the lady who's died is the mother of the driver.
I just felt really, really terrible for that female, because she's lost her mum, and she's lost her mum in a situation where she was in control of that vehicle, behind the wheel of that vehicle.
It's nearly midnight, and Carl's on his way to a shocking incident.
Okay, en route.
A cyclist has been badly injured and possibly worse on the A10, the London to Cambridge road.
Apparently there might be a push bike next to him, so I don't know if there's been an accident or not, or whether it's someone who's just fallen off his bike.
The A10 is a fast dual carriageway, hardly a place to be cycling. Especially this part of it, which is pitch black.
The local unit completely shut the A10, or we're in the process of doing that.
Sierra 60 Whiskey 7 are coming. If they can start putting a taper just north of the Ware junction to bring everything off at the 602 from Windows.
There was a local car there and also a paramedic response vehicle.
Right, what we got?
Basically, just turned up, he was here a couple of minutes after. He was rolled over, so he's on his side, bicycle's there. Rolled over, he's just confirmed deceased, that's it, you've arrived. These three chaps here have stopped and found him different vehicles, no other vehicle involved here.
The cyclist was laying to the near side and his bicycle was just in front of him.
The man is dead, and it's looking like he's been struck by a vehicle that hasn't stopped. A hit and run.
There are 3 members of the public at this scene. I think they've come across it. They're just being spoken to by the local officers. I'm just getting all their details. I'll wait till we've got some traffic units to the scene to start getting accounts. But from the state of the pedal cycle he was riding, it would appear at this stage that it's a fail to stop. We've got no other vehicles have stopped at the scene. So it will be a complete closure on the A10 southbound.
It was clear from both his injuries and the damage to the bike that it had been a very high-speed impact.
Remarkably, a violin case has been found undamaged, just a few yards away from the twisted remains of the victim's bicycle.
How was he when you found him? Was he faced over?
Face down. His jacket was rolled up over his head, so we've had to roll it.
So I take it his face would have been here, would it?
Yeah, face was there.
So almost.
All the blood.
So you've literally just pulled him over as he was.
Pulled his jacket down. That's it.
Okay.
Sadly, the paramedics had been unable to resuscitate the man when they arrived.
I don't think you ever get used to it, but you have to remember that you're dealing with someone's loved one, and in that you deal with it as professionally as possible. Yes, we may have to close the road, which may well inconvenience other people, but it's imperative that we conduct a proper and professional investigation for that person and for their family, so that they know exactly what happened, and so that if it's required, justice can be done.
And that means finding out the man's name and why he was riding along the dual carriageway, and tracing the driver that hit him.
They just saw a male on the floor, yeah.
A couple of men chanced upon the cyclist.
They found him, yeah, no witnesses to the collision.
Just as we were driving down the road, spotted the bike, and then as we shot past, I just caught the clothes out the corner of my eye. Went up to the roundabout, spun round, and pulled up behind him, and you could see there weren't a lot left there.
It is dark and it's a fast road, and people do tear along here, but you know, it's you wouldn't expect to see a bike on a road, you know, this dark.
Yeah, it's dreadful when somebody don't stop. Yeah.
We do see it on a fairly regular basis, but this is something that's quite deeply shocking for them.
Oh, it's horrific, isn't it? You know, somebody's obviously done some damage and hung around to see the result.
But some vital clues have been left behind.
He's certainly missing his near side wing mirror.
Carl is turning detective.
Possibly, and this is only possibly, other bodywork damage to the near side, but most certainly near side wing mirror missing. Can we give the details as soon as possible to Essex and the Met, please?
Looking at the debris, we saw it was a chrome effect headlight housing, and both myself and Adam had come to the conclusion it was from a Mini.
It's a great lead for the cops. However, no clues to identify the bike rider have been found. Who he was is a mystery.
Out there somewhere is a family, and they need to be told. And the earlier that we can get a positive identification on that person, the earlier we can let them know.
Oh, he must have done an ECG, yeah?
He's done ECG.
Searching the body is a part of what we do. A not very nice part, but something nonetheless that we have to do. He had substantial injuries, so very heavy impact injuries, substantial blood loss.
The cops' only hope for a quick identification is a specialist piece of equipment that can read fingerprints.
Adam had used the mobile ID device. He'd managed to get a fingerprint from the cyclist.
The device is connected via a BlackBerry to the police's national fingerprint database.
Let's try and identify him without having to go through his pockets at this stage. We were only able to use it on one finger. It's come back with a result, so we're just running that through now.
The man's a local musician, 37-year-old James McGee.
Because we'd got an early identification on James, we were able to identify his home address, and a family liaison officer in place, PC Rowley Smith, and together with PC Homes, they were at the address and had informed his parents.
Almost half an hour has passed since the accident happened, and the cops have just received a very important phone call.
We've had contact from a driver of the vehicle that we believe is involved. She's contacted our control room to say that she believes she was in a collision somewhere around 30 minutes before calling us, and she believes she was involved in a collision on this stretch of the A10.
She's told us that she left the dual carriageway at the next junction, where she's examined her vehicle and found some damage. I think because I'm quite a cynical person, I was actually wondering whether it was actually the driver or whether it was actually somebody covering for another driver.
Drink drivers are the most likely to flee an accident.
Because the person had already left the scene, we need to interview that person because she and her car are part of the crime scene.
To avoid any possibility of evidence being transferred from the crime scene, traffic cops based in Watford, PC's Tony Knibb and Tim Hill, have been called in to talk to the driver and check out her car.
All the other officers from that side of the county were involved at the scene. Now, from a cross-contamination point of view, those officers then couldn't leave the scene and then go and deal with a possible offender or go and touch the vehicle. So we were asked, as we'd been completely uninvolved with anything that had gone on prior to that, to go to where this vehicle could potentially be.
The offender is going to be arrested.
Looking for a little mini.
For causing death by dangerous driving. It carries a maximum 14-year prison sentence.
That's it. What number is it? This one, I think. Yeah, what number house is it?
I can't see it, mate. Tango 3 Whiskey 1. We have arrived. The car is on the driveway with damage on the front of that vehicle consistent with hitting a cyclist. She believed she'd hit an animal. So we actually had to tell her that she'd actually killed somebody on the road.
The news has come as a total shock to the girl.
She physically broke down, and at one point she had to walk into the back garden and was physically sick.
So the young lady's been arrested. We're just going to breath test her, so I'm going to get the kit out of the car.
There's a possibility that she may have been drinking. We didn't know that, so we had to conduct a roadside breath test on her, which we did inside the house there, and she blew a 0.
The cops are satisfied they've got the right person.
She's openly admitted to being the driver of that vehicle, so she's been arrested by me at this point for causing death by dangerous driving. So at the moment we're just waiting for recovery of the vehicle, to have it taken away to be examined forensically, and then we'll take her into custody and we'll have her dealt with in custody.
The girl's account is that of another chance event. Something that could have happened to anyone.
She's extremely distraught. She didn't realise she'd hit a person. She said she saw no lights. She was just driving along in lane 1, as she believes, and she's hit what she thought was an animal. She's pulled over at the side of the road, a little bit further up the road, and she's called her father and a boyfriend as well, and said she thinks she's hit an animal and had an accident in the vehicle. Her boyfriend's gone and driven the vehicle back to the home address here, where she's been good enough to phone the police and spoke to her dad as well, and he's advised her to phone the police.
Not stopping at the scene of an accident and failing to report it would have been another offence.
Saved us an awful lot of aggravation in trying to trace a vehicle, of which we only have the briefest of details. We then conveyed her back to Hatfield Police Station, and really she was probably in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But what needs to be discovered before any conclusions can be drawn is whereabouts on the road was the cyclist, and could he have been avoided?
His main injuries appear to be on the near side. It's his left arm. He's got some injuries to his left leg as well.
It's another assignment for Crash Detective Bob Wagstaff. But first, a little light needs to be shed on things.
The collision investigators, SOCOs, need to be able to see what they're doing. We need to be able to locate the evidence that's there. So we had lighting put up at the scene.
The cops have got something especially for the job. An inflatable lighthouse. SOCO, or Scenes of Crime officers, are here as well.
We'll seize that because we'll be going to the vehicle probably in a couple of days and we'll do the mechanical fix.
Hopefully they will be able to tell us where the pedal cycle was at the time of the collision.
Every minute scrap of evidence is being identified for analysis.
We're basically working our way through the scene systematically. Chrome, is it? It's chrome headlight surround, isn't it? Is it chrome? I don't know, it's hard to tell if it's chrome or colour. I think it's chrome. It's definitely a mini. Well, we're looking at for contact marks, we're looking for tyre marks, we're looking for anything to give us a point of impact.
It's clear that the bicycle had no lights on it or even a reflector. But it's proving impossible to deduce anything more from its mangled remnants.
The moment the bike's been hit, it's been accelerated and thrown forward, it becomes a projectile. So therefore, we couldn't find the actual precise impact point, so we couldn't be definitive as to where it was on the road.
We have got a shoe missing that we can't find. I would suggest it's over there, but that's marshland. I'm not sending anyone over there at night. That can be done during the day.
The accident is high up on a viaduct with no hard shoulder or any spare room to cycle along at all.
And actually, if he'd have gone over the railings, he could have dropped down into the river that was below and nobody would have known that he was there.
We've given the chap a quick search.
The police believe the man had been busking and was returning home.
Some suggestion he might be a busker. He had a violin on his back, and seems to be some intelligence that he's sort of been busking with somebody.
Extraordinarily, his violin has survived in its case and is completely intact.
He's basically been riding his bicycle up here.
Yep.
No reflectives on.
As you do.
It don't appear to be any lights on the bike. We haven't found any lights on the bike.
Yeah. Okay. You can head over that one.
The 24-year-old girl has arrived at Hatfield Police Station for questioning.
She had potentially committed a serious offence. A pedal cyclist has been hit by a motor vehicle, and as a result of that collision, the pedal cyclist has died. It's a sad situation for anybody. She was fully cooperative, she came from a nice family, and unfortunately it's one of those things that possibly could have happened to many people.
I'm going to authorise your detention here so that we can ascertain whether there's sufficient evidence to charge you with any offences. Obviously, I understand this is going to be a difficult time for you as well, but we need to look into what's happened and we need to work out how to deal with it.
And all the way through she always said she thought she'd hit an animal. And then became scared. And I think it's only when she got home and spoke to stepdad, and I think a little bit of realisation set in, which is why then they called the police, because they believed it may have been something perhaps more than an animal, and that the police needed to be aware of what had happened or potentially what may have happened.
Back at the scene of the accident, it's looking from all of the evidence that the girl is not to blame.
Is it reasonable that the driver didn't see him? Well, yes, it is reasonable because, you know, he's in a black environment, he's on a trunk road, he's got no lights, he's got no reflectors, in completely dark. There's no contrast to help anyone see him as potentially being a hazard. It's likely that she wasn't on main beam because she's on a dual carriageway with other traffic coming towards them, so she would be driving on dip beam. And it's on a long sweeping curve as well, so as you're coming round, your lights are forward, although on dip beam they would be to the near side, but potentially, you know, he would be to the near side of her and she still, you know, wouldn't necessarily pick him out.
Purely from her reaction when I've arrived and knocked on her door and told her that the sad news that she has killed somebody, I think she's telling me the truth.
Another discovery has been made which might have been a factor in the accident.
The paramedic who was dealing with the casualty informed us that he suspected that there may be an element of alcohol involved. Whether that's had any bearing on the collision, we don't know, but he did think that he could detect alcohol on the deceased. Like with most accidents, there's a chain of events that have happened, and it's all of those little bits that have led to, unfortunately, to this death occurring. Had one of those bits changed, it may have been a different outcome, may never have happened.
At his inquest, it was revealed that James McGee was nearly 2.5 times the legal limit for driving. The coroner described the gifted violinist's death as a tragic accident. Nighttime brings new challenges for West Yorkshire's motorway cops. It's not only road safety they deal with, but with 2 major cities on their doorstep, they're often asked to help out in the surrounding towns. PC James Alderson and PC Dick Infield are patrolling in Dewsbury, south of Leeds.
Is there a McDonald's in there?
Not 24 hours though.
I didn't want to wait, just asking if
At 4:30 a.m, they receive a call from a Leeds unit.
We've got a failed to stop on Hunsford Road.
They make their way to the area to help bring the car to a safe stop.
6-4, can you show us the 10 in that last one?
We're now behind the Snitter Max. We're ahead of the vehicle now, trying to medicate to the motorway.
When we've heard it's going towards the motorway, we're thinking, well, hopefully it may well come southbound, which is towards where we are. The last thing we want to be doing is put excess pressure on them, make them drive more dangerously, which quite clearly puts members of the public at great risk.
But the micro driver has other ideas.
30 vehicle's gone wrong way, repeat, wrong way down entry down to M1 on southbound carriageway. Yeah.
Go right. This potentially could get a bit dangerous.
That is the worst thing that could ever happen in a pursuit. Once you're committed in the wrong direction. It's just sends shivers up your spine. It's an awful thought.
Heading northbound on M1.
The other traffic cars are monitoring it, but they're not pursuing it on the wrong side of the road. So we're going to make our way into the area in case it comes off. If that hits something head on, go left here. We've come full length out of Dewsbury, it's not past us on 653.
It's crashed and it's looking like a potential.
Go on, M1 North. They just found the car and it's, they said it's crashed and it's looking like a potential vehicle.
It very quickly turns into your worst nightmare.
They're saying it's carnage, absolute carnage.
You then become fearful of who's involved.
We don't know who's potentially fatally injured, whether it's the person in the micro or if it's hit something head on.
Is it going to be somebody that's just minding their own business, driving to work, that's the person that's potentially fatally injured?
It had disaster written all over it when they said it had gone the wrong way, down the wrong carriageway.
Two vehicles have hit the Menzies delivery van head on.
Ultimately, we're all human. The first thing you are thinking is, what are you going to find when you get there?
More than 6 police cars are on their way, but James and Dick are one of the first to arrive.
Oh, jeez. Devastation. Carnage. There's a male on the road at the side of the car. You can tell when somebody's in a bad way just by looking at them. That's experience, that's from going to numerous collisions over the years.
This car that they've been looking for, it's trying to come round a bend and it would appear it's a wagon.
Their first concern is the car driver.
So we're just going to go have a look. Certainly not moving. Could do with finding the driver of the van, make sure they're okay, because they're going to be quite shook up, I would have thought.
Let's just get our wagons turned around. It'll look at scene preservation, don't we?
The motorway will be closed immediately to avoid any disturbance of evidence that could be vital for an investigation, while cops start finding out exactly what's gone on.
You all right? Has he just come flying towards you this way?
The driver of the blue van appears uninjured, albeit in shock. It's been just 8 minutes since the crash, and paramedics are still some minutes away. But firearms officers, the most highly medically trained officers in the force, are here to tend to the micro driver. The cops know that the next few minutes will be crucial. Back on the M1, it's a much more difficult end to the night shift for James and Dick. A micro has collided head-on with a van, leaving the driver with life-threatening injuries. The cops are trying to establish what happened from the only witness.
He's actually driven through it, stopped, and then rung it in.
You got all his details?
I've got all of his details. A bit shaken.
As I came round the corner, it's just that there was a mangled wreck in the road. I'm just relieved that I wasn't maybe 5 minutes ahead this morning, and it could have been me. You know, I feel for the van driver.
This is a journey on the M1 he won't forget.
I live round the corner, so I use it every day virtually. But I'll always remember coming round this morning.
The van driver has escaped with bruises, but the young car driver is still fighting for his life.
This is the worst it gets. The worst it gets. It makes you shiver. God knows how fast here we're going coming the other way. It's just no one expects anybody to be travelling the wrong way down a motorway. Nobody. It's not what happens.
Paramedics join the firearms officers to try to save the driver.
To touch the patient. Start CPR. Give 30 compressions.
They tried for quite some time to revive him.
Analysing rhythm. It is now safe to touch the patient. Start CPR.
It's not looking good.
30 compressions.
We had confirmation from the paramedics that the driver of the Nissan Micra has been pronounced dead. This is the ultimate sacrifice for his actions, the ultimate sacrifice. You have to separate yourself. You have to separate your home life from your working life. Ask me if I've ever thought about him since. Yeah, I have, because I've driven on that road. But I don't take it home because if not, I'd have no family life.
Had the accident happened on this stretch of the motorway just 2 hours later, in the middle of rush hour, there could have been multiple fatalities.
I'll never forget this incident. I know the van driver will never forget it, and I know the family of this lad will never forget it.
Collision investigator Martin Ward has only a few hours to build a picture of what may have happened.
Although you've got all this disruption to the frame of the Micra, the collision's probably occurred about 5 to 10 metres further back.
The early indication from our collision investigation unit is that, and from speaking to the witness in the van, who's obviously gone off to hospital, the van driver's been coming this way and has seen this, the Micra being driven by the deceased. He's attempted to swerve over towards the hard shoulder. However, on doing that, this vehicle, the Micra, has also moved onto the hard shoulder. There's obviously a lot of investigation still to be done. That's the early indications.
As daylight breaks, the on-scene investigations come to a close. Rush hour is fast approaching, and at last, one of the busiest intersections of the M1 can reopen. With so few witnesses, CCTV camera evidence is crucial. It captures the moments the van drives down the slip road and comes face to face with the car, heading in the wrong direction of the motorway.
It must have been absolute desperation to do that. Why he did it will be forever a mystery.
After further investigations, it was found that the car driver who went the wrong way up the M1 was more than 3 times the prescribed drink-drive limit.